push-ups, pull-ups. So when I would meet him, and he was a vice president, so he would text me and say, hey, we're going to be in this city today. And we'd meet at 5 a.m. He basically started, I would show up and he'd put weights around my waist and do dips. And I'd ask him, why are we doing calisthenics? Because he says, whether one day you work out or not, lifting your body weight will always maintain your figure. And so he said, whatever we build your figure to be, you know, whether you go through seasons of working out or not, it'll maintain that structure because your workouts are your body weight. So just by you getting up off the couch, you know, walking something in or getting up out of bed, like you're using your body weight. So it maintains that structure. Whereas if you do what's called mirror working out, and working out for the mirror or figure workout, it's like I'm using weights to build it. The moment I stop lifting weights, it's done because I'm lifting 25 pounds or whatever. But when you're doing a pull-up, you're lifting whatever you are, 200 pounds. When you do, you know, when you're at the bench press, what do you put on? Well, if you're a small guy, you're probably putting on 125 pounds. Yeah. But if you do a push-up, like me being right now 250, if I do a push-up, I'm pushing up 250 pounds, not 100 pounds. So your ability to maintain strength and keep your strength there by just lifting your body and doing your body. And then, you know, every once in a while you hit some pull-ups or whatever, it'll maintain it. So even as I've gained weight over the years, my figure stayed the same. And then when I really got into fitness, it was CrossFit. So CrossFit is a lot of calisthenics as well. Yeah. It's a lot of push-ups, dips, squats, air squats. So that's kind of where my figure has stayed the same. Yeah, is because the advice he gave me, and I just
that's
for
good
me,
to know.
That's
good to know.
Yeah,
put more of an emphasis on like just body weight exercises.
Go to a park.
Yeah, because I'm not a gym guy, so that works for me.
Go to a park. You know? Most parks have like a dip station, a pull-up station, and if you could just start building on that, you'll not only build muscle very fast, you get strong doing that stuff.
And every body type is different. I mean, because you've maintained your weight. Is it a certain weight or like eating? Do you do something specific?
My body's real sensitive to bad food, so my body won't let me get past a certain weight because then I start feeling like death. And so like
if he has a soda, he'll have a headache.
I got to back off
McDonald's.
Yeah. So I'll just I'll just binge like fast food for a week and just get that in, and then after that I'm like dead for like 3 days, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta cut it out. And so I'll just fast for like 3 days and just get back to my normal rhythm. But and I have a fast metabolism, I think, from all the years of running. I think that did a lot for me.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then, I mean, I think for me, like, it really changed. I always sat around, 220 pounds. And then if I was at 230, it was like, oh, I'm putting on weight. And when you have kids and you're going to school and then you're coming home from work, it just, unless you can build that lifestyle in. And like I've said in other episodes before, I just don't enjoy working out anymore. I used to love it. And then even when I was married, I would have friends come to my house at 7 a.m. and we would lift, and I was just always and I was strong, very, very strong. And now it's like part of that insecurity is like when I go back to the gym and I can like only lift a third of what I used to lift, it's a big head case. Like you're just in your head. You leave so discouraged. To me, it's not even the fitness stuff. It's not going on a treadmill or bike. It's like when I go to lift something like I used to, or do a dip or a pull up, and I can do, I used to be able to, do whatever push-ups, whatever pull-up. Now I'm doing less than a third of it, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to leave depressed. Just like, I'm out of here. It's a week before you come back or whatever. So now, for me, it's just, I think we talked about another, probably like the moment I can start build a habit of working out, everything follows. Diet, all that. I'm not the opposite. People say, oh, just start eating right and everything will fall in between. I'm the guy that's like, the moment I can start working out, I will not put a piece of candy in my mouth. Because I know how much work I put in working out, and I will not
ruin it with that
with reward as other people.
But if I'm not working out, then it doesn't matter to me. I'll tend to eat whatever I want. But I'm on this fast now, so that's always to me. I'm spending time with the Lord, but also to me, it's also my force to like reset my taste buds and try to start. Last year, what messed me up was I got like it wasn't COVID. I just got a nasty flu. So when you come out of a flu, like having it for a week, and at that time I was going to the gym for 2 weeks during the fast every day at 5 a.m. and I was in this new system. I was pumped, and then I got the flu, and then it was like a week where I couldn't work out or anything, and you're recovering, and then you just start eating whatever again because the fast came off at that point, and I messed the routine up. I messed the rhythm up, and I was so on. I was on it, so I'm gonna get back on that. Anyways,
how do you ladies stay in shape?
You know, she works out more consistently than I do, but I work out, and I don't eat bad. The only cheat that I do
she's still in her mid-20s, so she's spoiled. She's got youth and metabolism and everything. So
I do
she's
have
taking
a
it
fast
all for granted.
metabolism still from playing sports. But then I do work out, and I don't eat bad. My body is like yours, where it can't take a lot of bad things before I start to feel like death. So I can only get so far.
Yeah, a lot of mine is genetics too. Both my parents were athletic, and I feel a lot of it does come from your genetics, you know. So, and I have a fast, even though I'm 30, but I have a fast metabolism, and I work out about 2 to 3 times a week. I don't work out every single day. It's just not for me. But
that's enough.
Or hiking.
That's enough, though. One of the guys my dad used to run with, he's an elder here, Dr. Sunday. This blew me away when I found this out because I grew up running with them and running with him, and we did marathons together. And I didn't know that when he would run marathons with my dad and they would train together, he literally only trained 1 day a week.
Really? For a marathon?
For a marathon.
It's crazy.
And I just couldn't believe that.
That's crazy.
You say 2 or 3, like, sometimes, like, a lot
I
of times,
feel like that's good enough. Yeah, and my eating is like Chelsea's. I don't, I mean, I do love sweets, so bread,
so do I.
Cookies,
That's my cheat.
like, we're really similar in that.
Yeah,
but
we are.
Yeah,
coming to our desk, we got all the snacks.
Oh yeah,
she does. I take them.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
I try. The only thing I make space for, because my Ashley loves working out. That's her thing. So she's 5-6 days a week working out hard stuff and and she does different stuff. And she was a professional athlete, but for her, that's where, to me, it's like she has to get it in. So I'm helping the boys and everything like that, because I know for her that's important for me. For her, rather, that's her enjoyment. It's not enjoyment for me. So it's like, I told her, like, that's the problem, is like, I have to work out. I'm trying to work out for health. You working out because it's for your mental health. It's because you love it. So it's a hobby for you as well. So it's like finding that balance, because she'll come home from working out and be like, okay, you want me to watch the boys while you do something? I'm like, no. Like, I want to do something I enjoy now. You know, like you got to do something you enjoy. Working out for me ain't enjoying. So, it's like but we got everything at the house. We got everything Peloton makes. We got, I just walk by that fitness room and just give it a little hello. Give it a little hello and keep it every day. I'm always like, I'll get there eventually.
And there's so many different ways to work out. You don't have to be in the gym. Like, hiking is another way,
Well, I started walking because I haven't worked out in years. So I started walking on the treadmill, and I'm an all or nothing guy, so that's hard for me. I'm either gotta start running the way I did in high school, or I'm just not gonna do anything. But it's amazing how walking, like, I could just walk and put on a show or scroll through whatever on my phone, and it's good. It's been working out for me.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, here we are today, Beyond the Letter. I don't know what episode this is. It's something like 14, 15. Do you know,
15,
Corey?
right.
This is episode 15? Wow. So we're officially past 90 days, right? So we're officially past 90 days. It's a huge accomplishment. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening. It's crazy to me. I looked the other day because I was like, I wonder if we fell off on Apple, and we're still a top 10 new podcast in the Apple App Store. I mean, it just
right on.
So thank you everyone who's been listening to it and sharing. I mean, it's blowing me away how much people are, and
That's
just
excellent.
the diversity of the episodes we've been trying to put out. It's been very conscious, and we want to go into this next year now that we have a really cool and great audience and people connected to us. It's going to give us the ability to be able to really attract great interviews from people
for sure.
that people maybe not have heard of.
Right.
You'd be surprised how many people out there that are maybe famous or well known that are Christians, but a lot of churches don't engage them because they're just not going to have them share on Sunday or whatever it may be. So gives us an opportunity to kind of have those conversations. So I'm excited for those going into this year.
Me
Some
too.
cool interviews with really impactful people. And then Yeah, and then everyone who's just supported thus far. So thank you everyone who's been a part. Today we have with us, we got Nancy sitting in with us, one of our producers, Chelsie, executive producer, sitting with us. We got Jermaine on the audio. We got Phil sitting in, who works with me, and then Jeremiah, who's on the team.
Try not to cry today.
We'll see your tears. That was a great episode last week. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites.
Thank you. It was riveting, and thank you so much for your authenticity, and it was very special. Then we got Gabe on the cues, on the keys, on the nines. And then Corey, Mr. Wilson, Corey is he popped in somewhere, popped in at some point, and then you got me and Caleb, the People's Padres, in the house here joining me. You know, people call me PP now around church and stuff.
We should have, we should have pre-thought about that.
Yeah.
I know. I'll take it. I'll take it. You know,
I'll take it.
They call me Hey People's Padre. I'll take that, man. All day. I'll take PP.
Triple P. Triple P. Does the PP stand for poopy pants or? No.
It stands for. This is a good Bob the Bible Guy episode. People's Padre in the house. So let's get to it today. We got some videos we want to talk. It's been a while since we've just kind of talked through some videos, stuff that's been going viral and everything like that. And so very excited to be able to jump into those today. So Gabe, why don't you lean us into what we're talking about today?
The first video is about Benny Hinn's nephew airing out some stuff about his uncle, Benny Hinn. I don't know his nephew's name.
Costy Hinn.
Chanel, Rodeo, Prada shoes, Hermes, Paris. Yeah, Maserati, Range Rover, Rolls Royce, Bentleys. I mean, all of the above. These are the cars of choice. To see Hermes and Chanel and Gucci and Ferragamo and Louis Vuitton and this all represents normalcy back then. You could never tell me that I'm not God's anointed if I'm flying on one of those. Because I tell people that if you obey God, have enough faith, give enough money, and do all the right things, that He'll bless you. But yeah, this hotel is on a man-made island, and there's the pool in the back of it. We were hanging out there, and then you drive across this bridge, and then the royal suite was loaded with gold, and the whole hotel is loaded with gold. That was a layover on the way to do ministry in, I believe that one was going to India. So on the way to preach to impoverished people, we were, dropping some 40 or 50K for a layover.
So today, let's give to the Lord's work because we love Him, because we adore Him, because we love His gospel and the mention of the name of Jesus. Let's do it today.
Every gift that you give, I want you just to picture your Father saying, that's the best of all.
And you in your homes, you give and watch what God will do with your seed.
Wow. Okay, that's a heavy. What is that, like a documentary coming out?
Yeah.
It's coming out?
Yeah. Costy Hinn did it. I think Costy Hinn is doing this documentary exposing his uncle or whatever.
Him, my friend. I think that's his uncle or that's his son-in-law?
He was an apprentice of him in his younger years before.
Right. Then he switched.
Yeah.
See the one that became reformed?
Yeah.
Okay. I went to college with his cousin. Costy Hinn's cousin.
Oh,
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Or his maybe his wife's, whoever it is. I had a friend who was Persian in college and he would tell me like Costy was kind of like starting to create waves because he was going through a transitional period where he wasn't really agreeing. This is probably 11, 12 odd years ago now. So he would tell me, dude, my cousin's like kind of making some waves over there at Benny Hinn Ministries.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy to see where things are gone now. So now he's doing a documentary.
Oh, now he's
with
he's going full war mode on his uncle. Like
now it was under my recent impression. I could be wrong. Like I know I had seen some videos circulating where I think Creflo Dollar was repented for the way he had talked about offering before and giving that like.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think I've been teaching.
Think, yeah, it
and
was
I heard Benny Hinn may have been
well,
done the
he
same.
didn't entirely. He repented specifically of making the promise that if you give $100, you're guaranteed to get back
Yeah.
Right.
$100,000.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that gimmicky approach, but he didn't repent of kind of the main message of, you know, sow your seed into this ministry and God will provide a tenfold or an abundance and so on.
Yeah.
But it was
so
specifically
Benny
kind of that
didn't do that
gimmicky,
either.
that gimmicky
I
sort
thought
of a thing.
he repented of some things too, but I could be wrong. We could probably look into it. But here's one thing that I acknowledge. I've, you know, ever since my childhood, I have been really uncomfortable and anti-prosperity preachers, you know, in that way, which I think is our generations tend to be. So, you know, it was probably our parents and parents who were really into. But here's why I think a lot of that preaching, because you see a lot of them either starting to backstep now or their ministries are non-existent anymore. People have kind of caught on.
Well, the state of the economy isn't helping their message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what that goes to some of my thinking, as I think is part of this is you know, the American prosperity movement. Not only because you're always going to have a subsection of the church in America or almost any church in any country where there's a subsect that reflects the ideologies of the nation, right? So there, if I go to say China, there is a church sponsored. Christianity is quote unquote allowed, but certain passages out of the Bible have been taken out. Certain you cannot elevate Jesus higher than the Chinese government, and so there's a church sponsored church. And then below them is the underground church where they're just unabashedly preaching the gospel and prison and everything like that. But there is a church, and there are church leaders who are saying, yeah, we'll be subservient to the government, or we'll follow the culture of China and teach whether it's in the Bible or not. We'll do that. Yeah. And I think in America, our version of that has been. America's messaging is it's the land of the free, it's the home of the brave, it's the place where you could come and you can make something of yourself. You can dream. It's the American dream. So there's gonna be a subsect of, and this was, you know, we look at years ago when America was truly thriving and profitable, and you know, under Clinton, he had taken us. We literally had 90s. Zero debt. You know, as a nation. So we've been so prosperous,
and that just so happened to be the height of his ministry was the 90s. Yeah,
because it's mirroring America. People are prospering in areas. Even people who are impoverished are hoping to prosper like everyone else. So there's always going to be a subsect of preachers in church who, unfortunately, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying you can go to any country and you can see a subsection of the church who's going to be attracting any culture that they're and just applying it in a very lukewarm approach in that sense is what I would say. So to me, those individuals over the years who have done that stuff, whether, you know, not to judge whether their services and, you know, whether the Spirit was moving or not or whatever it may be, but just speaking on the component of talking about money, to me, they were just mirroring what the nation was talking about, what politicians were talking about.
Let me ask you this then. How do you explain a huge success of their ministries being in third world countries then? Because he was traveling to India, he was traveling to South America, he was traveling to Asian countries. Africa was a big one where he would get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of poor, impoverished people coming out to hear that type of prosperity gospel message. So how do you explain that?
Well, here's the thing: is I don't think that they were I don't think that they were going to listen to him for the prosperity message. I think they were going to listen to him for the move of the Spirit. So
the healing
stuff, the mirror. And whether right, wrong, or indifferent, it's true. I think in many countries they are hungry for a miracle, and so some of the times it is substantial. I'm not saying it's all fake. So when you have a people who are so poor and so broken, and their faith is like in America, I don't think we see a lot of signs and wonders because we're just like we're very jaded. We take stuff for granted. You know, we think everything is supposed to be given to us. In other countries, just hungry to see God. They, like, barely could put food on their table. So a preacher coming in and saying there's going to be a miracle of manna on your table. There, you know, it's like he's translating somewhat of the prosperity message to more of a practical of, like, you know, you're going to telling, and I've seen these before, testimonies of, you know, just like the widow, like there was, you know, we only had bread for one day and then it was multiplied and we had bread for a month, and, you know, and that preacher's there and see, this is God. And that's the kind of testimonies they're telling in those third world countries. And then obviously they are giving whatever they have, and often in more of the impoverished nations, they give more than in the Americas, you know, because they believe and want a miracle so much. So but again, it's an American ideology that they're coming with, is what I think it is. So I think they're applying it in another country, but the root is the evil side of America, which is the love of money. The love of success. And you're going to have preachers that are just a product of what their nation is put, which is why I don't think we have many of those preachers anymore, because the product of our nation, what do we have more of nowadays? We have a lot of preachers who are liberalized. We have a lot of preachers who are not teaching sound doctrine, because why? They're mirroring America. What America wants to hear, and that's what they think is great. So in the 90s, it was, hey, we're gonna be rich. We're gonna be a country. We're all driving Mercedes. So what's the church gonna do? They're gonna be people in the church who are preachers who are gonna say, well, now I believe that, and I believe that religiously, and I read a couple verses and I took them out of context. And I'm not excusing him, but I'm saying it's all of our issues when we don't choose to look at the error in some of our cultural practices and our cultural thinking, and then just it's so easy to blame the guys or the people who are on the top. It's easy to blame the politicians. It's easy to blame the celebrity preachers, but we're the ones following. We're the one liking. We're the ones commenting. We're the one, we're the ones giving it. So we have to reflect on ourselves, like, why did I believe? You know, if I'm reading the Bible for myself, why did I believe that if I gave this guy $100 that it would turn into $100,000?
Right.
It's sickening that you're taking advantage of people, but also we have to have responsibility ourselves to be like, why am I believing this thing? It's not in the Bible, you know?
In a sense, you know, it's funny because I feel like millennials and Gen Z and younger are the ones who are going against these type of preachers and the prosperity gospel and so on, and you also have the deconstruction movement that's deconstructing the religion that we grew up in, and in this sense I see that culture as a positive in that we're not as gullible to just throw our money at the latest and greatest swindler who comes across our path. So that skepticism, that not being as gullible, I think that the ability to question more, learning from previous kind of generations' mistakes. Yeah. Because one of the things I think about is with Creflo Dollar and with Benny Hinn coming out and repenting, I don't want to judge their heart, but I almost feel like I wonder if they're only doing it in this particular season because it's no longer paying off. And they're getting so many rebukes on social media and nobody's watching them anymore on TV and nobody's watching them on the internet, and they're being exposed and they're being confronted that they're like, man, I gotta change course in this ship, or else, you know, I can't survive this next season of my ministry. Right. I would hope they have they have had a genuine heart change. But
right. And at the end of the day, they're the men they're going to give account to the Lord. You know, like, I mean, the money that we give to the church, and that's why I'm a little, like, not skeptical, I don't know what the word is, but when people make that argument, like, well, why are we giving money to the church? Like, at the end of the day, like you said, if you read your word, you know why you're tithing. You know why you're giving an offering. And I love what we do, you know, at Abundant Living Family Church. I have a friend who was like, you know what, I appreciate that they show the financials. They show us where the money is going. So it creates accountability within the church because we're not, you know, in that scene we're just gullible, like, okay, let's just give it. Now there's that sense of accountability. Let me show the financials. Let me show you the orphanages that we're building. Let me show you literally how we're stewarding this money. So I think, like you said, it is a positive turn, but at the same time.
And the laborer is deserving of his wages, as the scripture says. But when you are like doing this excess, to me, that's a clear.
It's like, where's that money going?
That's clearly.
Here's my other theory on it as well. I do. I have another theory on as well. To me, part of what I'll do is, and that's probably like the theologian side of me, is like, well, why are we falling for this? You know, like they're not doing it in private. You know, like you're not doing it in secret.
In front of our faces.
Yeah, and you take some of the, you know, other preachers who are you know, still going around. It's like they're very, you know, I just recently saw a clip of a pastor talking about how the chandelier in his living room is the cost of a house. You know, he said it very well. He said it very proud, right? Right. And so here's my thinking of it, and I have a feeling you'll like some of it. Because you're a fan of monarchies, you know. You see, not all monarchies, but the theory. You know, you're a fan of the theory of a system, of a system of a monarchy, right? And so,
I don't want America to be a monarchy, because I believe you submit to whatever cultural climate God puts you in. So we're a democratic republic.
In America, we have a choice. We could make it a monarchy if we wanted to tomorrow, in some way, shape, or form.
But that's what I'm saying. Even though I sympathize with monarchies, I'm not saying I want America to be a monarchy. That's right. That's
just go with me though. It's in the Bible.
Okay. Go. What's the theory?
You like the idea of.
Well, here's why. Here's why. At least we know who to blame.
Right.
So with the way America is, like, we don't know who to blame.
Nobody's taking accountability.
Yeah, it's more corporations that are controlling America than anybody. And how do you put a face or a name? So with a monarchy, you know who to blame. King Edward, King Henry is evil. So somebody's probably going to like kill him because he's an evil king, and somebody else will rise up who's for the people, and the people will raise him up, and then the cycle just continues. You know. So, anyways,
what was your theory? I want to know your theory.
No, I wanted him to massage that because my theory is I think it's and when you read the Bible, there's a nuance. Jesus is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. So there is a sense, even in the Bible, monarchy is all throughout the Scripture. Having a leader that's to get the claim, the blame, and everything, right? And the acclaim. Like, there's someone responsible for that. I think there is an intrinsic nature of us that likes that. That's why we like celebrities. Like, think about it. Like, why do I care about a celebrity?
That you've never met, right?
Yeah, there's someone I watched on film, and even if it was prior to films, it was a person who's an orator, or a person who is a business person. Like, why do I celebritize? Why do I look up to... Why do I want to wear a football player's name on the back of my shirt, who literally, if I saw him at the restaurant, he would think that I was disposing him. Like, this guy could care less if I was wearing his name on my jersey outside of the money that he makes. And I mean no disrespect in it, in the sense of, why do we do this? Why do we, why do we want other people's names on us? Why do we want, well, because there's this idea of elevating someone, putting someone at a higher stature, celebritizing someone, worshiping someone, monarchy leading someone. And so I think a lot of these churches and these countries, and they have kings, they have princes, they have leaders. These guys have palatial cars, palatial palaces. Why does no one say anything? Only when they're doing a bad job does then the people revolt and kick the king out. But if they're doing a good job,
no one's mad.
Why is no one mad that they have golden spoons, golden forks? No one fights that. Why is no one right now with our politicians? Why does no one complain about how much money these politicians make for speaking engagements? And you'll see a guy who's a politician making a fixed salary of $140,000 a year, and they're wearing a suit that's worth $20,000. How does that make any sense? How are they affording this? Well, because there's some type of abuse going on, but because we celebritize and we lift people up and we move people up. We look past until they've gone to a point where they've crossed the line for us. Then we start stripping them of all those things. And so I think with many of these prosperity preachers who have had the planes, to us and to people in the church, they're our version of the monarchy. They're our version of, because in the black community, that's very famous. Like a lot of young black people in the community have gotten issues with that now, but historically, and I know, like, I have talked to a lot of older saints and stuff like that to say, hey, in these churches where you would have a pastor driving a Rolls Royce, and you know, there's that stereotype. He drives a Rolls Royce, but the church chairs are old and stained and blah 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 blah, and he's got, you know, his wife is all decked out. Why are you guys okay with that? Why do you put up with that? And my response that I've always gotten from older saints in the black or even the Hispanic church was, our pastor represents us to the community. If my pastor is taken care of and my pastor it has life in such a way that we're all striving for, then as our leader in the community, he will garner the respect that we need him to have to be a voice in our community. And so if he showed up in a Honda Accord to a meeting with the mayor's not going to take our pastor serious. If our pastor needs to go eye for eye against that business guy in the city. Our pastor needs to go eye for eye with that politician that he's going up against. That was always their opinion and their viewpoint, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not saying I back this stuff, but I'm saying it's easier said than done, because we have to ask ourselves, why are so many people going in that direction? Oh, yeah. Like, these people wouldn't have money unless people. And so my question goes, why are they believing it? Why? And to me, it goes, because it gives them self-validation. It makes them feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Groupies that follow people, celebrities around, like, oh, I was in the same room as them. So I think it makes people feel like they're more credible to be who they want to be. My thing is, to answer your question, why do we pump this up? I think it's illiteracy, biblical illiteracy. Our generation looks, a lot of us aren't diving in the Bible saying, what does tithing or generosity really look like? We're looking at some of these celebrities, oh, they got the rose, or they got the house, oh, well, if I just follow God, maybe I'll get that. Right. So I think they're following this because they're getting mirrored the life that they want to live. Yeah. And they're being taught prosperity gospel. If you do this, you'll get that. So I just think it goes back to biblical illiteracy. That's it.
Yeah, I think if you dwindle it down to the easiest, like just the easiest reason why it's happening, for sure it's biblical literacy. Yeah. But then my mind still goes, but there are the people like us who are preaching against it. Why? But at the same time, biblical literacy doesn't change the fact that I have a LeBron James jersey. Biblical literacy doesn't change. So to me, I'm viewing what is there intrinsically inside of us that wants people to elevate higher than us. That's not us. And we even are willing to put our money in the prize pool so that someone else can look better than us, you know, in that sense. And to me, I think there is, at least where I've come to understand it, because I'm extremely individualistic. So I'm not a fan of almost anyone, you know, because I've met my heroes in my life and it has gone horrible. And so therefore,
for sure.
Therefore, to me, if you want to win my respect, I got to have a conversation with you first, is all it is. So there was there's a famous account. There was a famous celebrity out in LA one time, and I was with someone, young guy, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh my gosh, we got to get a picture with him. And so he walks up to the celebrity. You could tell he's bothered. Like the celebrity's annoyed. He's annoyed. And so the guy's like, that I'm with, he's like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And he's literally like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what the heck? And so then he takes the picture. And then the celebrity looks at me and he goes, what about you? You want a picture too? And I said, nah, man, just looking at you face to face was good enough for me. And then he goes, what? Man, thank you. Hey, what's your name? And then he was going somewhere, and then he stopped, and he's like, what's your name? And so we talked for like 5 minutes, but to him was brought his wall down was like, I don't really care savoring this moment. I met you. I can tell people I met you. I'm fine. I don't need a picture with you. Because you don't care that you just took a picture with me. Why would I want to be in a picture with someone who don't even want to be in the picture with me? Like, you don't even want to be in a picture. You don't even want to know my name. Like, I could tell you how much you changed my life and you still don't care. So for me, in my head in life now, I'm like, I'm so anti just savoring celebrity. I'm anti and there are people I'm genuine fans. I'm a fan of this and I'm a fan of a product they've created. So I'm still a fan of stuff, but this idea
like idolizing it.
But we do it everywhere. We do it
do you
with
think it's
athletes,
because
we do it with celebrities.
it's all most people know is idolizing things and celebrity?
I think it's intrinsic because I think every culture in the world does it.
Yeah, because if
I don't think it's American
automatically
culture.
went to the royal family and Harry and Meghan and
I don't get none of that stuff.
So
I don't understand it.
Yeah. So, but I was watching the documentary.
Like I get it now of what I've settled with, but the theory of like
I had to Google the theory behind all of what I was watching because I was thoroughly confused at what their role was. But and looking at how Harry was a kid and now he's grown up, he's developed a lifestyle and an ideology based on what he's known. He grew up in it. He was born into it. That's all he knows. All people who live out there know is we celebritize this royal family. They're born into it. Nobody is pushing back on this theory of idolizing people. Nobody. We are now.
Well, if you do, you're going to get in a lot of trouble.
You're going to get canceled.
If you're in England, you get.
Oh, you're going to get so canceled.
Did you see the guy that was anti it during the Queen's funeral? The christening of the current king, and the guy just basically said he was anti. He thinks the royal thing should be decimated. The cops grabbed him and took him to the ground. And then arrested him just for saying, I don't think we should have,
you know, it's human nature because if that happens, if he gets what he wants, just some other warlord will end up rising up and be the new Constantine of that era. And then everybody will worship him.
Well, it's cyclical now.
It's just like it's human nature.
So
you're always going to have a leader
here's
that
where
you
I'm saying that I'm not
worship.
really opposed to the nature of celebritizing or having a monarchy, because if you clearly look through society, every culture has a version of that. And so if you're in England, they don't necessarily have celebrities in the way that we do because they have the monarchy. So their replacement of what we worship and idolize is a political figure, is a monarchy. It's queen, king, it's their family. Like if you get into these message boards, which I've had, I mean, even in Spain, because Spain, a lot of people don't know, Spain is a monarchy still. So Spain doesn't even have a form of traditional government, even like England. So Spain is still really monarch. Man, they got fan pages just for the 5-year-old daughter, of this king creepy. And of this queen. I mean, if she has an ice cream cone and by the beach, like they have, and it's just magazine. How cute she is, and just and she's elevated, and and it's look, she has her own personal chauffeur, like and they. They celebrate it and celebritize it. And I think there's a level in us that is intrinsically that way because through the test of time, we have, for us, if you go back 2,000 years ago, who was the celebrity? It was the warlord. It was the emperor who was going from, nation to nation and conquering them. And he had his generals, and his generals were the celebrities and his household. And so you literally can almost turn to almost no time in history where there wasn't someone that was living better than society,
or
and no one in society questioned it.
Or a group of people that wanted somebody. We want a king. We want a leader. We want somebody to worship.
But that you wanted them to live in a disparity to the people. Like that's what we continually have, right? So you go down into LA and you have all these impoverished people. You have all these celebrities. You have all these celebrity toting goodness and humanity, and yet you go to their house. Like Leonardo DiCaprio just bought 4 houses next to him in Hollywood. He now owns the largest acreage in Beverly Hills, Leonardo DiCaprio. He bought 4 houses in Beverly Hills and has now gated the whole thing off. But then these individuals, not him, I don't have a quote him, but many of these individuals, then they'll go on stage and say, we got to be compassionate towards people, loving towards people. We need to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why are you buying 4 homes that no one can get near you? And then you're gating them. And then literally your neighbor in the city next door, there's tens of thousands of them living in tents. Like, why are we okay with this disparity? Because that's what we do. And so many preachers have just
fallen in line.
I don't know if it's fair to say we are okay with it, because I think a lot of people speak out against corrupt politicians and corrupt, hypocritical celebrities. I mean, we speak out against it all the time. I think
I'm not saying I or we, but what I'm saying is
saying,
society
why do we
as a
allow
whole.
it? It's just like, well, they get there because they make millions and billions of dollars because of a skill, because they're actors, because of a particular thing, and it just happens naturally. It's not like we allow it to happen. But there is kind of that. It still can kind of morph
but we cancel people all the time.
Celebrity worship.
But we cancel people all the time. It's very easy to cancel people.
Right,
so that's what I'm talking about. The disparity of finance to me has always fascinated me. That is never a point where we draw the line. We draw the line if the guy does cocaine.
If they mess up.
We draw the line if he beats a woman or sexually assaults.
Whatever the politically correct is of that day.
So we can do it.
Yeah.
We could end. Hollywood or society could end Leonardo's career. Right now Will Smith is going through his thing because of his decision. To me, it's like that's the thing that we chose to like draw the line where dilapidation and palatial is not. And for preachers, we don't do that.
Or you could speak against white people all day. All the media supports it. All the media is all for it. You just white bash and speak against white people all day. You will never get counseled. But then when the greatest rap artist, billionaire, speaks against another people group, boom, billions of dollars getting taken away. Right. So it revolves around
That's
this
a great
political.
point.
There's a protected.
That's a great point.
But that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Is society has the power to approve and disapprove things. Society has the power to give something an eye and an ear, and we choose not to for the sake of because there is this intrinsic. Now, to me, I mean, the ultimate Christian is responsible because, we're meant to glorify God in our lives. We're meant to give Christ glory. We're meant to follow Christ, worship Christ. He's the King of Kings. So that is why that is in us. So that's why I always question, how come every society, every celebrity I speak? Well, because it's built in us to do that to Christ, towards God. That goes back to the 10 Commandments. No gods before me, no graven images. What is that? To me, that's a celebrity in my eyes. Putting someone, an image or a person above the Lord. And I think that's why we do it.
Well, I just am amazed when I see these crowds, and they're suicidal crowds, with these... What's his name? That big artist where a bunch of people died because
Travis Scott.
Yeah, Travis Scott. I look at something like that and I cannot comprehend it because I'm like you. I'm an individualist, and I don't idolize. I don't idolize a person. Yeah. If I respect and if I respect a leader, it's because of his message. It's not because of the whatever gifting or it's because he's speaking a particular message that I believe will transform the world and transform society. Yeah. That's what I'm drawn to personally. It's like King Solomon. King Solomon, he brought peace to the people of Israel during his time. He had 1,000 wives. He was sleeping with mistresses and women every day. And according to the Bible, it was totally okay to submit to him and to respect him as a leader. He was praised as a man of peace. And so I could respect a King Solomon because he's doing good in his society. He's bringing peace. I don't care if he has 1,000 wives. Please do whatever you need to do to be happy so that you can keep bringing peace to this land. It's like, with the previous politician who must not be named Trump. It's like, oh, how can you as a Christian support Trump if he has all these mistresses, all these divorces? And like, hey, I don't care if he brings prosperity to America and my dollar works harder for me than it did before, then I'm all for, I don't care what he does. Because he's a politician. A religious leader is totally different. Going back to Benny Hinn now, there should be different standards for religious leaders. And I think most people understand that. And I think most people look at a Benny Hinn and they say they rightly criticize him and say you shouldn't be living like Leonardo DiCaprio because you're a man of God.
For sure.
You should be humble. You should not abuse people's money, you know, and so there is a right sort of criticism.
Definitely.
There's a fine line, though, because, I mean, obviously that video was excessive. He's in a jet or whatnot. But I feel like if we do have pastors that, you know, do steward the money correctly and also have the house and the car, I'm not mad at that. Like,
yeah, but this is excess.
No, that's what I'm saying. That is excess,
you're right,
but there
though.
has to be, there's
you
a
can
fine
have a
line.
nice house, nice
you're
car,
not,
but
you shouldn't expect your pastor to roll up in a beat up, like,
right.
Yeah, right. That's another
Some
thing.
people are very I'm going to show you.
Well, but the stuff that a lot of people are like often leaving out, like if you just turn into like the religion aspect is, and Caleb says there's a responsibility, and for sure, like I said, you know, this is excess, and I would hope people start seeing it and say, hey, draw the line and stuff like that. But the, you know, there's 300 and I think 30,000 evangelical churches in America registered as, you know, within the IRS. 80% of them are 200 members and below. So over 280,000 churches in America are under 200. And of that, over 50% of all pastors are bivocational, which means they work one full-time job and they do church full-time as well. Yeah. I mean, they do it because they love people. Right. They love God. They love his church. Then there's that 20% of people who you would put in the context of, well, then it's another like 10 or 20% is 1,500 church, like people of 1,500 and below, and then only 10% of, or between 5 and 10% of churches in America, which you would consider a mega church. And more than likely, these individuals who are able to build mega churches are not only very good orders, so by their own, they're like a celebrity because they're an incredible orator. People come to hear them. Now each church is different, so I'm not going to speak towards whether the Spirit of God's moving and what they're preaching and what, but I'll just say, period. If over 2,000 people are coming to hear someone, they're a good orator. Yeah. Period. I'm not talking about whether they're authentic or not. You're just a good orator. Then on top of that, you being a good orator, you're probably also would be a really good business person because you probably understand systems of business. So these are individuals who are making money, not more than likely even just in their church. They are probably making a substantial amount of money outside their church because they are good orators. So it means they're salesmen. They could sell, you know, so they're probably in real estate. They're probably, you know, you take TD Jakes. A lot of people don't know about TD Jakes is he owns like shopping malls and he owns anchorages. He owns schools. I mean, the dude has a lot of property, he owns a production company and everything like that. Because this is an individual who's not only he's a good businessman.
Even
you know?
Copeland, I'm not defending Copeland or anything, but I believe his property sits on like an oil field or something.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and they produce and sell oil. So they're individual. Like the criticism of those individuals are the, you know, for lack of better words, the top of their class, and they could easily leave church tomorrow. Not talking Benny Hinn, I don't know his skills, but a lot of these guys, like they could leave church tomorrow
and still have that
and have exactly what they have. They're not doing it for the church. Now these televangelists, to me, that's what's different. Not pastors. Like a televangelist.
So what's a televangelist?
Televangelist, is a person who's going on TV, who's purposely telling you, if you give a certain amount of sum of money, God's going to bless you. He's going to open up doors. To me, that is error. God is going to judge that. God is going to judge you.
Right.
You should be judged for what you're talking about. And so to me, lavish lifestyle with them and that, or whatever money they have, purely taking advantage of the poor. Usually they're widows. Usually they're poor. Usually they're women. Usually, you know, you go to a lot of these prophets, the PRFITs, you know, those prophets.
That's good.
It's a room full of women. And Caleb has always said that. It's like, you'll notice, man, go to these people who are profiting.
You're right.
Prophets. You said that. Well,
I had an experience.
Like a lot of women.
I had an experience. There's a period where I was churchless. And so, you know, I was trying to find a church to go to. And so visiting all these churches, went to this specific church, and it was one of those prophets. And saying, hey, by the end of the service, you have to give $2,000. And if you give $2,000, then God's going to wipe out your debt next year. And people are walking up to the
cashing
stage.
it out. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there.
How much of the room was female?
Oh, 70-80%. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, are you guys serious? And they buy into this stuff because, and I think because they see this guy who's living this lavish lifestyle, not knowing that he's
physically
abusing
attractive.
their money. Oh, which
which helps.
Oh, which helps there. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So I've seen that with my own eyes,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting back like, are you serious? People are buying into this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, show me in the Bible where it says that. So I sat my little, I actually walked out.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do this.
I got kicked out of a church gathering like that one time.
You got kicked
Can
out.
you tell a story?
I didn't get kicked out, but I got. So hey, I'm definitely not a perfect guy. So I'll put that in. And just
Disclaimer.
The prerequisite to the story. This is great. Please tell the story.
I was invited to this thing, and I didn't know what it was, but there was about maybe 80 people there, and it was like a night where they were just singing music and doing prophecies, and people were falling out, and they were talking about money, and I brought Heron with me, and Pastor Heron, and so he's so uncomfortable. He looks at me because they had asked me at some point if I would pray at some, because they were doing all this stuff. I didn't know what was going on, so I'm like, yeah, I'll pray. I was supporting a friend who was featured in something. It's probably like 7 years ago. So we're there the whole night. It's like a 2-hour service. The whole night, not one scripture the Bible was not open. It was not cracked open at all.
Sorry, this was a church?
Yeah, it was a church. It was a church gathering. Yeah. So, but I'm telling you, the whole night, 2 hours, no scripture was given, no Bible was given. The songs that were sung were just all about me, 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 me. God's going to open up a door. God's going to rain down blessings. God, music like that. Prophecies of looking at people like, money's coming. Don't fret. People crying. All these things like that. And so, they did a period of, they had 4 guys come up and give like a word and a prayer, and the music's playing, bah, 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 dun, dun, dun. They're hyping it up and everything like that. And I'm so mad at this point, like people being taken advantage of. And in my adulthood,
the zeal.
Zeal
consumeth.
Yeah. So in my adulthood, I had never, when I was younger, I'd been in services like that. But now as an adult and also kind of a respected figure, I had never been in an environment like that. I'd always I kind of got tricked into being into that space. So I didn't know what I was going to be at. So I'm there, and then the 3 guys go before me. And again, God decree and declare, and they're just hyping everyone up. Everyone's screaming. And so I get up there, and I just go, I look at the band, and I go, hey, would you guys stop playing? And they're like, And then, you have the piano guy that's like, bam, bam. And I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Like, please, could you stop? And I just said, hey, I'm so great to be here. I just want to encourage you guys, for the whole 2 hours that we've been here, we have yet to read God's word. We've yet to crack our Bibles open. And so I just want to read a passage from Psalms with us, and it's a prayer. So I was asked to do a prayer, and so I'm going to read a prayer from the Bible today. And then I read the passage. I mean, the place is dry now. Like everybody was laying on the floor, jumping down. Place is dry now, and so I
quenched the spirit.
Yeah, 100% I did. So I finished reading the thing, and then I say a prayer. And then in my prayer, I'm basically like, God, I just pray that we fall deeper in love with you. Whatever you give us and don't give us, I just pray, Lord, that it not be built on materialism and blah, blah. And so I'm just like rebuking one person after another through the prayer. So I finish, and the guy comes up who's like who's been given all these prophecies and stuff like that. He's like, oh, well, yeah. So thanks, Pastor Adam, for being here tonight. Like, he did not know how to like get back. I mean, I did. I killed the mood, but I was like, I can't stay in this. Yeah. So I killed the mood, and then I went up to the person who invited me and was just like, hey man, I don't think this is my scene. I think I'm gonna head out. And he's like, oh, okay, because they still were like gonna go. I was there for 2 hours. They were still going.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it's not my. He's like, no, I understand. And blah blah blah. It's cool. And then I left. But to me, like that, I can't get with. I believe anyone could have an emotional experience when it comes to their faith, but taking advantage of people with words of prophecy or financial commitments, To me, that's where I draw the
and,
line.
you know, and there are
and
I want to add something, because there is a big criticism of people just wanting to burn the whole thing down in regards to churches and nonprofits, and churches should start paying taxes and they get all this money, blah blah blah. It's important to note that none of these churches are forcing their people to give them money. They're not. It's not like the government with taxes. None of these churches are forcing them to give money. Number one, and number two, when I look at these YouTubers and I look at these super chats when they live stream, and I look at all of the millions of dollars, I'm thinking to myself, because I would never, as much as I love the YouTube people that I follow, like I would never, maybe I'm stingy, but I'm just like, I would never think, I'm just not the guy that's going to give them $5 in their super chat, right? In the super chat. But I look at all this bank that they make, bank.
I'm giving $5.
Okay, well, so I look at all this bank.
But I get why you wouldn't, but I'll tell you why I did.
But I'm saying,
I want to know why.
But I'm saying, but here's what I'm saying. Going back to your point, the world has no problem with that. The world never criticizes why Logan Paul is making $1 million a stream by people freely giving out of their bank account into his bank account. Why? Because they value his content. What he's saying is improving their life in some way. Yeah. The same thing is true with the church. People who go to a church, it's because the speaker, the pastor, the ministry is improving their life. Yeah. And so they want to show that appreciation by giving money. So naturally, the more people you have in your congregation, the more wealthy that pastor is probably going to be and should be. Right. He should have a bigger house. He should have a nicer car. He's affecting more people. He's blessing more people. Yeah. So there's a natural element to that. It's not just this, you know, we shouldn't just criticize everybody for having, every leader for having nice things or for having nice houses, nice cars. You know, they're obviously
there are points of abuse and there's points that draw the line, but
than the average pastor.
That's not enough to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
You still want a good stewardship and not
definitely and I think pastors that over excel that, like in these palatious ways, but I don't think in any regard towards anyone we should be, like to Nancy's point, walking around and thinking that we're the Caleb recently said it when we did Beyond the Letter Live, just vote with your pocketbook. So if you're not in agreement with someone, like you don't have to go on the trumpet and just start calling people and stuff out. I mean, unless it's grotesque and you see your people going down. Like we've had those conversations before of like even of like maybe worship leaders that I know that aren't living a Christ-like life. Like at what point do you have responsibility to speak
on
out?
our end to draw the line? Right. Yeah.
But most people, we think it's our responsibility to call anyone and anything out and blah, 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 and look at this guy, and it's like you don't know any context, you know, of what's going on, but we just freely offer these criticisms of what's happening without any, you know, repercussion or anything like that. But then we wonder, most people that are like that, they're sour, they're depressed, they're not. I mean, they're very rare. Like I have very rarely met people who are happy and successful in life who are like super critical towards others. You know, like they're usually the opposite. You know, they're the first to encourage someone to tell them, good job, you deserved that. You did, you know, I'm sure you worked hard for that. You're not like, no one assumes it just fell on their lap. And so I think you know, there is a benefit in reciprocity, you know, of you know, I'll talk to people sometimes who are like, you know, I want to start a podcast. And I'm like, well, what podcast do you listen to? And they're like, oh, I don't listen to any. And I'm like, okay, so you want people to listen to you.
But you don't listen to anybody.
But you don't listen to anyone, you know, or I want to write a book. How many books have you read? Oh, I haven't read any. I haven't found any I like. Well, listen, nobody's going to like yours. Yeah. If you've not been read, you won't know how to read. If you know, I think one of the reasons why our podcast is successful is because people know about me. It is all I listen to. All I listen to is podcasts. I have hundreds upon hundreds of hours of podcasts leading up to this moment when we launched this podcast. I had literally, if you go into my podcast library, and I've been famous for it for years, anyone has always said, if you want to know what podcast to listen to, you go to Pastor Adam. It's all he listens to. And I listen from business to culture to religion. Secular, and so, like secular, everything. And I feel like part of the reason why, and even for Caleb, he had done the same, but through YouTube, one of the reasons why this was kind of had more of a avalanche effect when we started this podcast is because you're talking about two guys who love this space,
right,
and encourage this space. So to the fact that to the fact you said where I've paid right now, I'm subscribed to like 5 YouTubers. One guy does YouTube content into Japan. 2 guys do content in Japan. Another guy is like a streamer. And why? Even whether I engage with their stuff or not, when I want to find something to enjoy, I watch their stuff.
Why
so
do you think I
them,
don't? Like
I give them $5
you
a
said
month.
You think you know why I don't?
Why he doesn't give $5 to in the chat.
Did I say that? No, I don't think I meant it like that.
Oh,
I said I know why I give. I don't know why you don't. But I said I know why I give. I give because I appreciate the content. I realize these guys are trying to make a living doing it. So I'm going to give you $15 a month. There's guys on Instagram that I'm subscribed to that are $20, $30 a month. I'm subscribed to guys on Twitter that I get their stuff. And I don't even really look at their stuff, but I appreciate the effort they're putting. And at the end of the day, I want, if I go into that space or I do something, I want to know that I was first a fan and a consumer before I ask someone to consume something from me. I want to make, so I'm a fan. Phil always makes fun of me because we always talk about how I'm a glutton for local business because I love local businesses. I don't like chains. I don't like corporations. So Phil knows, like, if I go to a mom and pop shop and if they're selling a T-shirt, a hoodie, a cup, whatever, I'll buy it every time. Just because, like, I appreciate you're putting yourself out there. I've owned many businesses over the years, and I know what it's like to have people not support your business. I also know what it's like to have people support your business. And so if I'm enjoying what you're doing, then if I have a little bit of extra money, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to buy your sweater or whatever, because I want you to succeed. Yeah. I hate when I walk by a local business, it's not open anymore. And what they were doing was so good, and people loved it. It just, the bills, they creep up, and so it's like, if there is someone that I love their cookies, or I love what I want you to have the best car. I want you to have the best. I want you to succeed. There's a small business owner we know that their business that we were supporting early on when they was like a mom and pop shop, like they just bought like the top of the line Escalade. And I was like, good for them. That business, I don't know whether it was a wise decision or not for them, but outside of that, I'm like, good for them. Like I saw you when you were a single mother doing this thing. And like, now you just like, good for you. You succeeded, like, and you didn't do it in the profit of breaking people and taking advantage of people. And I think that's where you got to draw the line. And unfortunately, there's a small percentage subsects of preachers who have done that. They've gotten to where they're going by taking advantage of people. And that's where you got to draw the line. That's where you got to say, hey, that is wrong. But that should be done with anything. If you got someone that's, running a business where they have a markup where they're just completely, and it's something people need or whatever, that's where you gotta, like these pharmaceutical companies, it's like the pill cost a penny and they're charging, $300 a pill. Like, you're corrupt, like that's where you start drawing the line and stuff. Other than that, you gotta support each other. But before you support someone, whatever you're trying to do, you got to be a fan of it first. Yeah, that's good. I mean, you gotta eat it up. I eat up church culture. I eat up sermons. I eat up. So if anyone would ever to say that my messages are good, I'm the first to say it's because I listen to them. I consume them. I analyze them.
Yeah,
not like, I live in this echo chamber and I just want to listen to my voice all day.
No creativity comes out of a vacuum. It's all inspired.
If you want to be the best filmmaker in the world, Corey, what do? You watch films?
I watch a lot of films.
Yes. You watch films? That's why Quentin Tarantino is the best, because he geeks out over films.
No, I just saw his thing called Django and Django, and he's so knowledgeable with the old spaghetti westerns, and that was like what inspired so much of his creativity. But you listen to him talk, because very few of us know about spaghetti westerns. I mean, that was a day and age we have no concept about, but he grew up with that. And it's just fascinating hearing him talk about it, because he knows every single nook and cranny detail of the director, of the actors, of why they did this, and it's just fascinating. Yeah, and
it's no wonder why he's a success.
Yeah.
So I mean, you gotta. I just, man, it just, and it's not this generation. It's just always when we're in our youth. But I know older people who are this way, is like, to think that you're going to be successful in a vacuum without loving the thing that you're pursuing when it doesn't benefit you, just in general, like, if you cannot find a way to love it, to incorporate it, to do it, like to follow it, like Quentin Tarantino, he loves, whether he's making movies or not, he's watching films, he's analyzing them, he loves it, and he's watching old stuff, new stuff, blah 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 blah. And so then when he puts out a movie, why is he one of the greatest filmmakers that ever lived? Well, because he loves the art. So you gotta love whatever it is that you're doing if you want it to be successful, and it has to have nothing to do with you until you start to do it. Because then you'll make the wise enough decisions that need to happen to cut stuff, to edit stuff, and stuff like that. Like I tell people, because I've been getting calls lately, and I just did a thing this week, and they're like, tell us how you launched your podcast, how you guys were able to get it off the ground so much. And one of my first things was like, well, the first thing is I love this space. So if you guys are doing something, if you guys don't love this space and you're just doing it, it's not going to happen. It's not going to take off. So if you're going to open a bakery and you've never visited a bakery before, or the only cakes you've ever eaten are yours, it's not going to work. But you meet great chefs and you're like, why are you a great chef? Because they love not just food, but the art of food. They go to restaurants and they eat, and they don't say, oh, I think what I make is the best. They're always able to say, this chef's food is better than mine, this chef's food is better than mine. When people are looking at them going, no, you're the best chef. It's like, to him, he's not. To him, he's a student of the craft. He's a student of the art. And you have to be that, So... it's crazy.
Word. How do we even get there?
Wow, from Benny Hinn to
to love what you do.
Lessons.
Yeah,
life lessons.
That's the nature of the podcast game, baby.
Them rabbit trails,
right?
Them rabbit trails.
All right. Wow. Do you guys have any connection with that? Can you pull up something that connects in some way to make this seamless? Or are we doing something random?
I'm sure Gabe has something great for us.
What do we got? We got probably enough for just one more little hit. Or if you got something, what do you have, Gabe?
Corey's. Okay, we're going back. Okay, so
they're deciding last minute.
This one's gonna be in the vein of biblical teachings, I guess. But it's this TikTok of this girl talking about the Bible and how it could be harmful for psychological reasons.
God is all-knowing and created humans. That means he would know how human psychology works, how the human brain works perfectly. He made it. But then why would his teachings be psychologically harmful? Could he not give us teachings that don't harm humans psychologically? Teachings like, you cannot trust yourself, you can't trust your own thoughts, you can't trust your heart, are proven to be psychologically harmful, like have negative effects on human mental health and even physical health. It's like you're inherently broken and incomplete. Are harmful to people. They're used by abusers, and people have to recover from teachings like that. Purity culture is proven to be psychologically harmful and foster abuse. Teachings like, if you're anxious, don't be, just trust God, are proven to not do anything to resolve anxieties. All-knowing, all-loving God who literally created humans would know how to give them teachings that aren't harming them psychologically. So if a church teaches you these things...
A lot of presuppositions in that.
Our church teaches all of those things.
Well, it does and to be clear, it says don't be anxious for nothing, but pray, not trust God. So specifically prayer, which
and
does
supplication,
does literally help actually with mental health and easing stress and anxiety. So, but she presupposed every statement that she made. And, first of all, don't trust your mind, don't trust your heart. So that's probably based off of the fall of man and how the Bible says the heart is deceitfully wicked, corrupt. Do not trust in your own Proverbs. Don't trust in your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and God will direct your paths. And then, the thing with the Bible and with God is he puts these guardrails up so that our sinful nature doesn't transgress it and destroy ourselves and our communities.
Cause chaos.
Like what she does, like she probably wouldn't even be alive if the Bible said, trust your heart, trust your thoughts, people. Because what's the average person now going to say? Oh, she's pretty. she's 10 years old. Let me do what I want with her, and let me
don't trust your thoughts.
Yeah. So I mean,
don't do that.
We couldn't even function in a society because our hearts are wicked. They're naturally sinful. We want we want to abuse. We want to steal. And for those of us who don't, our minds are constantly telling us contradictory things all the time, and we live in a sinful world. We have a sinful condition. So, when you read Leviticus, when you read Deuteronomy, when you read these Old Testament texts where God has these very specific guidelines for his called out community, it's so that they can be a more healthy and prosperous and peaceful community in light of the fallen world around them, the barbaric world around them. So it's for their good. It's for their prosperity. It's for their peace that he makes sure they don't eat certain foods, so that they're not prone to get certain diseases that the other nations are going to be prone to, so that they know not to abuse in business. So you don't they have rules for when you use your ox and stuff, and all of these things.
Rules for everything. Just if you think of a street sign, are they needed? No, but they help with direction, with order. You don't need a red light, green light, or yellow light, but it's saving our lives if we don't, because everybody has a thought of how they should drive. Right. When you put some parameters involved, it creates safety. It creates direction and guidance. That's how I view the Bible, because we could go off and do our own thing, which a lot of people are. And I want to know, how does your life look like now? And compare the two versus somebody who does look at the Bible and say, okay, I want to choose to live within these parameters. I look at the fruit of both of their lives and see how happy. Even look at your joy. On both sides.
And a lot of individuals like that, because more than likely, and for her, my heart would go out to her, because it's probably coming from a place of pain.
Pain and hurt.
People,
absolutely.
People making stuff church, like this don't make content like this unless they're deconstruction or church hurt, whatever. So, you're like, whatever it is that you've gone through, and so in their head, like, let's just say you asked a question. So, I'd like to compare your life to da-da-da-da-da. More than likely someone's response like that is like, I'm still healing from my trauma. I'm still, but if I not had it, I would be, so it's like, well, then let's look in a vacuum with someone who's atheistic, then that has no experience with church hurt. Let's look how their life looks like in terms of generosity. Let's look at what
have a better alternative. Is the question? What's your better alternative?
Self-gratification.
Because your method ain't working. The world's getting worse with your methods. What are you going to substitute it with? Feminism. What are you going to substitute with it?
Atheism or
secularism. How's that working out for
postmodernism? Exactly. And even like I was just listening to a podcast by Dak Shepard, and he was interviewing the actor Edward Norton, and they kind of got on a small tangent where Dak Shepard's an actor. His wife is Kristen Bell, famous from Frozen and other stuff like that. So he has a really, really great successful podcast and he does a lot of mental health stuff. But in this podcast, he was like, man, it's just, he's talking to Edward Norton. He's like, man, it's just so crazy how, and he's like as liberal comes. Obviously, he's interviewing actors who are always as liberal comes. So in it, he's like, man, it's just so crazy how liberals are so individualistic, everything is about themselves and what benefits them. And he's like, and then the conservatives, the Republicans, like, they're so generous. And what he really wanted to say, which he was like, you're talking Christians. You're not talking Republicans. It just so happens that a lot of Christians are Republicans, but you're not talking about Republicans. You're talking about Christians, because I think it was, we didn't show one of the videos, but I think it's 70 or 75% of all charitable giving is given by Christians. There was a statistic by Barna that was done this past year that Christianity and Christians outgave towards fixing poverty than the entire U.S. government as a whole. So if you would just leave Christians to be Christians, we would actually improve the world.
A better world.
If you took the government out, which historically that's what's happened. All the great
Caleb
hospitals.
makes that argument all the time. We talk about how much the church doesn't do, but let's talk about what the church
all the greatest hospitals. all the greatest universities, all the you can name almost, and greatest anything was started by a foundation of Christians, group of Christians who wanted a better society, better humanity, better create parameters and guardrails for society. There's a reason why the Western world is quote unquote as awoke as it is. It's because of Christianity. The reason why slavery doesn't exist, not just the transatlantic slavery, but slavery as a whole, even though in many developing countries slavery still exists, but in the Western awoke world, why does it not exist? What's the foundation of Christianity's? Right. William Wilberforce and so many others who were believers.
Can I just say this, and you could continue that great thought? Yeah. Because I've been really pondering this lately as like, this is like my new like one-shot apologetic argument that I'm going to say from now on is this, whether it be religion is true, whether God exists or not, I'm going to say this. I will convert to atheism. I will convert to Islam. I will convert to Buddhism. I will convert whatever you believe in. If you can prove to me in the past 2,000 years, another ideology or another religion has done more good than Christianity. Because I'm all about the fruit. Yeah. I mean, we can argue doctrine, we can argue
You're all about the people.
I'm all about the fruit. I'm all about the Constantinian era of fruitfulness. I'm all about the Reformation or the Catholic Church. Yeah. So the move of the Spirit in 2,000 years has been miraculous. Jesus said, "You will do greater works than me," and we have 2,000 years of history to show for that, of good fruit coming from Christians. So my new apologetic is just this: Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Bill Maher, show me if atheism has done more good, more charity, more giving, more transformation of evil within a culture.
Yeah. Mental health. Show me a group of atheists who have a better mental health.
If you can prove it historically that Islam, that Buddhism, that atheism has done more good, more orphanages, more help for children, more help for orphans, more help for widows, if you can prove that, I will convert tomorrow. Yeah, I will convert to the most loving ideology in history.
What's her alternative if she's saying it's causing psychological harm? So
the problem is her step is postmodernism.
Yeah,
it's all truth is relative. Trust your heart and your gut. You know what's best for yourself. It's like, no, I don't. I don't know what's best for myself.
Not at all.
Heck no. Like there's
who knows what
Which is where I'm like, where is she getting that?
I can barely understand myself, let alone my wife.
So I just I can barely live with myself. How she's so confident in saying that this causes psychological harm.
And she's saying all this like it's proven. Where is it proven? Where are you pulling this from? She keeps saying it's proven that this. Okay, well. We have where?
Yeah,
I'm just so confused.
It's definitely stretched statistics. She's definitely posting or pointing to real statistics that exist that are built to criticize Christianity and the Bible, but in no way, what is the group that's being asked the question? You went to a bunch of people who used to go to church, and you're asking them this question,
who are all
who are you?
By they're going to give you the same answer.
Who are you asking these questions to? Because the other statistics and the groups that actually Gallup and Barna, who actually specialize, and they are so truthful at the bottom. They will say who they've surveyed, where they were from, what group. So there's clarity in the process. All of their surveys say the exact opposite.
Right. The statistics is not in her favor.
They say attending church, being a part of any religion,
you're happier,
giving, you're
mental
happier,
health is better,
if
marriage
you serve
is
your
last.
community. All the statistics say the exact opposite. She said something about sexual assault, purity culture. It's not true. I've shared the messages and the statistics of the moment you have more than 3 sexual partners, your chance of divorce increases by 30%.
Well, going back,
the statistics are out
you will
there,
literally have more sexual assault if God said, "Do what you want."
Do what you want.
Yeah, 100%.
Do what your heart desires. Yeah. You will literally
then
have
talk about psychological harm
on every corner.
And
you'll have rapes and murders and.
Not to mention for many areas, especially like in the modern world, the reason why, even though it's definitely not perfect and there's always advantage, the reason why sexual assault, especially towards men and women in America and in the Western world, is taken as serious as it is is because of biblical standards of ethics, morality. Because there are countries where sexual assault, even other religious countries that are where a man can almost do whatever he wants to a woman, and so without any legal jurisdiction, he can do whatever. And so the Western world's even accountability towards sexual assault is because of particularly Christianity. And so a lot of these things that they would say is, oh, it's part of our awakening, and it's part of us. If we just got religion out of the way, we would be more compassionate, more caring. It's not true. And if we got some religions out of the way, some religions oppress in that way. But by far, we're talking about the effects of Christianity. We're talking about the effects of the Bible. The way we have progressed, whether it be women's rights, whether it be our view on the poor, our view on the hurting, it is all because of Christianity.
And let's not forget the greatest murders happened in the 20th century, from Stalin to Hitler to Mussolini, and they were all based upon a Darwinian philosophy, mainly a secular Darwinian survival of the fittest ideology. So that's that's already been tried.
Many of them would twist religion to get the people on board, but their own personal conviction was
corrupted.
Darwinianism is now they would then partner with church leaders and then twist the gospel,
and then twist as if the gospel was the one that's encouraging this stuff.
And
whether it was Karl Marx, who was an atheist, or you know, Darwin, it was all inspired. That was the inspiration of World War II, of a lot of the tyrants of World War II. You know.
And if you look at it, where do people first think about when they need something? It's the church. Oh, the feeding. You know, we have people, we run the Instagram pages. I just recently had somebody who actually was not even religious, and they were just like, they're coming from Turkey, and they were just saying, hey, you know, do you guys actually like help out people that don't attend church or anything like that? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. We have, you know, orphanages in other countries, and we have a generosity center where we feed people. And they were like, wait, so you guys really, really do that? And I was like, yeah, we do. Do you? And this person was like, do you guys accept people that don't, you know, believe in Jesus? And I was like, yeah, you can come to our services, you know, if you would like. And they were so shocked. They were like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So this person who's not even religious, who's from another country, where did they go to first? The church. You know, so it just goes to show, like, without the church, it would be a different story completely.
Even politicians, when politicians face big trials, whether it be a war or something, the first people they start calling are the religious leaders. They start flying them. They start flying them into Washington, D.C.
Fly them into the White House, pray over us for sure.
Or just like this football player that, you know, just fell on the ground. What happened at the station? They literally prayed
Everyone
live, you know, and everybody was asking for what? What were you asking for? You were asking for prayer.
They wanted prayer.
You know?
Exactly.
So it's like, come on. Where did you go to?
You had a dude on ESPN, like, you know, I might get in trouble for this, but this is what I know. Like, this is what I know, and I'm just going to pray for him right now. On live television, just started praying. You know, and it's like, there had to be multiple people that weren't believers at that time, but we're still posting, pray for pray for this. Like, who are you praying to though? Like, what, as long as you're in agreement with the prayer, that's cool.
You can always find a statistic in a group of something for something that you're trying to prove, but when you just completely anyone of any religion has to just look at Christianity and say to themselves, like Caleb said, this has bore the most fruit in human history. In terms of taking care of their neighbor, loving their neighbor. The Christian church, as fallen as we are, as frail as we are, as much as we make sense, there is no better group of people that take care of their neighbor, like Nancy just said, without any strings attached. Have we had bad times in our history of the church in 2000? Yes, welcome to humanity. But when you look at the statistics, the data of the orphanages, of the feeding programs, of the hospitals, of the education centers, man, the amount of
the fruit is not
education in math, science,
sure.
everything. I mean, society would look completely different without the goodness of humanity that's viewed in light of Christ, that Christians take very, very serious. They take that very serious, and we play that out as best as we can, which goes to we're going to get into another time, but you and I have been exploring and talking more about the return of Christ and when it takes place, and how depending on where you land, it changes your responsibility of humanity.
Episode.
You know,
the one we just, you know what I'm talking about?
Just to summarize it, I mean, you have a lot of people changing from premillennialism to postmillennialism, and premillennial basically says Jesus is coming tomorrow. The helicopters are the locusts in Revelation. We got to get ready. Putin is the Antichrist, or or Obama is the Antichrist. He's coming next year. That's premillennialism, and that's kind of
and then the world
dominated. And I think that has produced negative fruit, that we're all kind of awake, realizing, I grew up in the Left Behind series, and I thought this was going to happen, and blah blah blah, but it didn't happen the way the prophecy teacher in the book said it, promised it was going to happen. So you have postmillennialism, which basically says that the church will progressively dominate the world throughout human history. Will have more and more influence, more and more. And you've seen that when you look at history in the fragments of 500 years. The church does get better and better. Sometimes there are two steps back, but you always have it moving forward and forward, and more converts and more converts. So the thought that blows my mind with postmillennialism is it forces you to think about your great grandchildren and the legacy that you're going to leave. Mm-hmm. And it proposes the thought that we could literally still be in the infancy of the church age. Like the church in 20,000 years from now could be looking back at us and kind of laughing and thinking, did they really believe that? Oh, they were just babies. That was the infancy of the church. But that thought just blows my mind, having grown up with premillennialism. Now, I'm not saying I fully ascribe to postmillennialism, right? But I'm saying there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff along those lines, in the middle. Though.
Well, I've always just through natural inclination of being a charismatic Pentecostal evangelical, but even the Reformed camp that I was when I was younger, both sides were premillennial. But when you talk about a lot of individuals who are talking about the betterment of government and society and being involved and all that kind of stuff like that, that would take more of a framework that's post-millennial, that the church intrinsically gets better and better and becomes more and more impactful. It through time radically changes society and people and stuff like that. And so to me, it's just, it's been more fascinating to play out in my head that would say, because...
Premill says it gets worse. It's very kind of pessimistic.
It's dismal.
It's dismal.
It's very dismal.
It's just going to get worse and worse before Christ has to come.
And the special ones are the church. Like we will stand out as a light, like in ourselves,
our little remnant,
in our remnant.
While the world around us is just acting
falling
like
apart.
It's chaotic,
going to hell in a handbasket, and then we just wait for Jesus to return, which is great. I'm okay with. That's the one I know. That's the one I'm comfortable with. I can see that when I turn on TV and the news, but then you can see remnants of it when you turn on the news and you see people on ESPN praying. You can see little pockets of potential revival, and then so you think to yourself, okay, well, in a premillennial thought, you're thinking God is calling people into His church, and and He's growing the pocket of His church. But if you were postmillennial, you would say, okay, look at the fabrics of the church impacting society now. Now society is going to start changing because the beauty of God's church, and
more leaders and more arts and more music will be dominated by Christians, and Christians will mainly be producers of the great art, the great construction, the great architecture, the great...
And most premillennial people, like Pentecostals, if you told them that side of postmillennial, they'd be like, I want that side.
That side, rather than the one that we're taught, for sure.
Yeah. So it really... The framework of how you're viewing Christ's returns will change your responsibility.
It determines how you live, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I've been exploring that more because me and Caleb are thinkers, so we're able to maturely have a highbrow conversation that we leave in the room and then we go back to our premillennial thought when we go back out of the room. But as you talk it and explore it out, you think to yourself, this gives me more responsibility in the podcast of the impetus of impact in culture and community. It changes your framework of
More
the people you'll talk to, right? The people you'll talk to, and then it also, like Caleb said, it gives you a responsibility of generational wealth. So how is our churches and how is our church? A lot of post-millennial denominational churches, man, they have it intrinsically built in their church through status of finance and all that stuff like that their church will be around for 1,000 years.
Wow.
Because of the way they own the property, the way they own stocks, the way they have their governance set up of the church to make sure that one man can't come in and hijack it and take the church down, whether he started it or not, because they have thought very generational to say,
whereas
yes, we may have started this.
Premillennials
are like,
we're
this is
dying tomorrow, so let's
hunker down.
Yeah.
Or like what we would have, what I had, because I married a virgin, so the whole thing for me was like, oh Jesus, please don't come back before my wedding.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But if you think so generationally through post-millennial that you're like, okay, I am beautifying the church and the community and our country and our area, because my great-great-grandchildren are going to be in the space not of hell, but of extreme beauty of the church.
You're leaving it better
expands,
than what
you know?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Rather than, I think premillennial can fall into this ideology where it's very like selfish.
Yeah.
And whereas this postmillennial thought is, how can I leave this place better? Because I know there's going to be years and years to come. How do I leave it better? It does change the way you live and think.
Yeah. So I've been
That's a
exploring
great
it because
conversation.
it's,
I didn't think
you know,
there was even a split as a believer. I did not for me. It's
and there's
like
another one. There's
another
millennial.
one?
Yeah,
Amillennial.
there's three.
I didn't
so,
think there was like you live your life of course according to the word, and obviously wanting to leave that generational wealth, but also it's like trying to find like a middle ground between living your life to the fullest and enjoying it, but also thinking about what is that one then.
But let's just say play this out in some way. Like think of like, okay, so think of it some way in this way, and it's not perfect, but you know, when we're in when we're in our schools or when you're somewhere and maybe they have a picture of the President of the United States.
Yes.
Maybe they have the American flag. Like, imagine a day if we have the American flag, but right next to it you have the Christian flag. And you have the president, but above the president, you have a picture of Jesus.
Yeah.
That's greater than him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is the world that you're currently building for your great-great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
See, so, because right now, and if you're premillennial, it's literally just like the world will go to hell, so they'll worship who they worship. They'll do whatever they do. The church will be this remnant. We'll wait for Jesus. And so it's between us and the few of us.
Yeah,
and,
I see.
And we love our neighbor to get them saved and all these things like that. But the more post-millennial thought is we're gonna actually intrinsically expand into all of humanity, all of culture, all of society begins to build, which is like, you know, some people who maybe came from Catholicism are like, oh no, I've seen, you know, like we've seen where that goes. But again, you're talking about it becomes better and better and better. So in our infancy, it grows, it gets better and better and better. It changes how you approach life. It changes how you establish life. It changes your language that you talk about.
Run your money.
You know, everything,
things,
because you're talking about establishing an estate, house for your kids who will be in this place that as Christ grows over 100 years, 200 years, and it could be 10,000 years, it could be 400 years. But rather than just this urgency of it doesn't matter around us what happens, it's actually, no, it matters what happens around us, and it matters my place in the history of it. It matters. It matters in the long run.
Yeah.
Because right now it doesn't matter. So you're like, whether it's this, Jesus will come back, it'll all be erased.
Yeah. Right.
So, and we could go deeper one day and break it down deeper. But
Russia is a present day, in all seriousness, it's a present day example of this. Not to, I mean, to put aside the war. Okay, I know that's controversial. Sure. Put aside the war, but seriously though, because in the 20th century, Russia had the most deaths within their population than any other country. They suffered the most, and they came out of that era. It was atheistic. Stalin's goal was to wipe out every semblance of Christianity. It got down to a handful of churches. And then the new president, Putin, he's trying to give a resurgence to Orthodox Christianity, which they've labeled the state church. And he's putting himself under the cross. So he's putting Christ. This is okay. It could be propaganda, right? Adam always says it could be propaganda, but
Caleb
from his own mouth,
propaganda.
from his statements, Orthodox Christianity is the state church. He's putting himself under the authority of Christ, and he is governing his state, the morality based upon biblical principles, specifically of the family. Like he had a Christmas commercial where he dressed up as Santa Claus, and he went into this house that was all transgendered up. That there were two dads, and there was a boy who was dressed as a girl. And then Putin comes dressed as Santa Claus, and he replaces the doll with the football. he changes the
No
portrait.
way.
Yeah, he changes the portrait. This is coming from the president of Russia. He changes the portrait, and now instead of a man and a man being husband of the transgender girl or boy, whatever, it's a man and a woman. And so Santa Claus comes to rescue this household
That's a real
from
commercial.
the LGBTQIA agenda.
Yeah.
But it sends a clear message that like we're not about this secular atheistic agenda. We are putting ourselves under the morality and the authority of the Bible. Now, war, we can argue that's controversial.
yeah.
I'm against war. I'm against war and all. I'm against bloodshed. I'm against bloodshed. I'm against war. But anyways, that's an example. It's a modern day example of a country that is openly saying we are a Christian country. Christianity is our state religion, and moving forward, we're going to follow that.
Yeah. So a post-millennial person, now you talk about, like Caleb said, the morality of that person, whether theirs is legitimate or not, or he's using Christianity like dictators in the past to manipulate and control, which there's that counter argument, that someone would say. But in the essence of what Caleb said, the post-millennial person would say that for the 1,000-year reign of Jesus, the church gets better and better and better and better and better, more and more impactful, more and more, and the majority becomes the church, and the minority becomes the unbeliever in the world. Where the millennial side, premillennial side is the church is always the minority, and the world is always lost till Jesus pulls us up, and then he redoes it all, and then he brings us down with the whole church, and then we're in a millennial reign with Jesus, right? So it just, and we another time go deeper, and we can spell out premillennial and postmillennial in more context for people in the future. But should that fascinate you? You could go and study and read on it, but at the end of the day, we're transformed by our thinking. So how you view the interpretation of the scriptures and the teachings of the scriptures will ultimately change your responsibility or approach your responsibility here on earth. And I've been exploring, as me and Caleb have been talking about it, just the fascinating nature of personal responsibility that I feel. And I've never been one that had ever. I'm a theology major, so I've studied it, learned it, but it was always in the lens of my bias. Oh, I'm premillennial to the day I die. Blah 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 blah. Jesus is going to come back, rapture for me. Blah blah blah. I had never explored the idea of what would happen if the church just kept getting better and better and better, and the church became the majority, and unbelievers became the minority. To me, I've thought to myself like, wow, that's actually really beautiful.
Yeah, because I'm on the other side. Yeah,
and more, but obviously in both of these theories. But there's holes, and everyone has their scriptures that interpret this way, and so it's definitely in no way we're talking about end times. There's no way there's a perfect argument for either of these, But in the same way, it's just, and then most the boomers I know who are premillennial, who are thinking the rapture is going to come, when you hear them talk, they talk more like a postmillennial than they do a premillennial.
The world was supposed to be over in 2000, so they've experienced their theories.
But you hear them say like, we need to be involved in government. All of our government leaders should be Christian, and all of our, that's a post-millennial thought. That's not a premillennial thought. And so
definitely
to make that assumption or to make that claim, But if that changes your viewpoint, because I've always changed, even if you go back to some of the early podcasts, and me and Caleb were just talking about this recent, and we'll off podcast be probably exploring and talking about it more. But it's like earlier podcasts, you can almost hear me say the church should have a division amongst society and secular, and the church, being there, we be in our bubble, and we basically impact community from the inside out. But the potential other thinking is, well, if you're actually post-millennial, you'd more so say
immerse.
You have to immerse, and people in your church need to be going for office, and you need to start this transformational approach to make God's church expand and better and transform people's lives. Not in a we overcome your will sense, which is where the Catholic Empire, which was early on all millennial and was it post-millennial early on Catholic Church?
Well, post-millennial really rose in the 16th century with Americans fleeing the Reformation.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Edwards, the most famous post-millennial. But the whole city on a hill, the whole city on a hill concept, let's go to this new land, and we are going to bring Christ to this land, and we're going to be a city on a hill, and it's going to spread around the world, and Christianity will dominate the world. Yeah. That was a lot of the Puritans believed that. Yeah. It was a very optimistic approach to settling and coming to America and so on,
That's so
okay, well, we'll put a button up right there because we just will be able to go forever on that. So if everyone likes that, DM us, tell us you want us to keep talking about it. We'll dig in it deeper in a later date. But everybody have a great day. Thanks for tuning in with us. We will see you soon.
All right, thanks.